Prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew about success and fulfillment as we dive into the story of Ashley Krooks. From building a thriving multiple seven-figure business, traveling to over 55 countries around the world, to then having the tough realization that it wasn't all that it was made out to be, Ashley went on a journey to rediscover the true meaning of freedom. Her story will uncover what so many of us are seeking, so join us as we dive into the secrets to creating a life that, in her words, feels as good as it looks. Welcome to another episode of Shattering Reality. I am your host, Sabrina Weibel, and on this podcast, we break through the common limitations of modern reality and expand your thinking as we delve into topics of quantum physics, spirituality, channeling, and much more. Nothing is off the table here as we work to uncover human behavior and the secret powers of the mind and universe through discussing esoteric and sometimes controversial topics. In today's episode, we talked about what it actually is that you need to do in order to create that sense of freedom and accomplishment no matter where you're at in life, why you keep manifesting things going wrong in your life, steps to expand your capacity to receive more money, and so much more. This episode is full of gems, so you might want a pen and paper for this one. If you're loving this podcast, the best way to show your love is to leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend so that more people can hear these topics. And with that being said, let's get into it. Thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please give it a 5-star review, sharing what you love most about this podcast, and I will see you in the next episode of Shattering Reality. And welcome onto the show, Ashley. We are so blessed to have you here today.
Thanks so much. Very, very excited to be here.
Yeah. So your story is something that I feel so many of our listeners can take away from. You really achieved what the vast majority of people seem to be chasing: the financial success, the freedom to travel all over the world with your partner. Yet when you achieved those things, it didn't quite feel like you thought it would. And you realized that what it was that you truly needed to change in your life in order to genuinely feel happy and free. So could you go into a bit of your story and how you got to that point of realization that the external success really wasn't doing it for you?
Totally, totally. So like you said, it was like I literally was living everything I dreamed of. I started a business to be able to travel the world and work from anywhere and to be able to retire my now husband from his job and for us to literally travel and, make an awesome income to live and support our future family. And I was doing that. And we had left in May of 2018 to go till we moved out of our apartment, put everything in storage, and to literally start living this digital nomad lifestyle. And everything was so great. I was living my dream, traveling all around Europe. Our business was booming. And with my husband, he retired, from his job, and we were working together, and it was all it sounds like a dream, and it really was. And the thing was, is as we kept traveling throughout Europe, it was the first trip that I really started to realize this. I just kept feeling stressed or feeling like I couldn't really let it in. Like I wasn't feeling super grateful. I was just having all these thoughts about my business all the time, or just kind of creating all these different scenarios. And I just kept saying this should feel differently. Like I just feel like this isn't how it's supposed to be. And so with having that, I started to really look internally and be like, okay, I need to start to figure out what this is. Like, how can I start to, yes, it's amazing to have all of these things, but I need to actually be able to enjoy them. So, I thought it was all about the external things. I feel like that's so much of what success is that we're taught about, at least. But then once I had that, it was like, okay, but now I need to actually look within, and I needed to actually discover well, what actually feels good for me? How can I actually receive this? How can I let it in? And just the type of person that I am, I wasn't going to just kind of keep going in one direction with just the external success. I was like, no, I need to start going internally and start to really figure out how can this feel good for me so I can actually enjoy this life that I've created.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like that's something that so many of us are chasing in the day to day. And the saying that how does the saying go? It's like you need to enjoy the journey along the way. How exactly do you say
Mhm. I think just enjoy the journey works.
enjoy the journey along the way? I feel like we're told that so many times, we hear that so many times, but that's a concept that's like so hard to grasp. It's like you hear that and then you're like, okay, but like how?
Mhm.
So thinking of that, I feel like so many people aspire to, feel that way, feel that feeling, that good feeling inside, yet they still feel that sense of emptiness or dissatisfaction or that feeling that something still just isn't quite right, no matter what's going on in their life externally. So, what advice, going on this journey yourself, what advice would you give to those people who have those big goals and striving for success, but are also really craving that deeper fulfillment?
There's so much I have to say on this topic because even as you're asking that question, I'm like, that literally was me. I had these huge goals and I didn't know any different. I was a high achiever my entire life. So it was literally like, okay, I have the goal and I do whatever I can to get there. I work all the time. I strive, like that's success. That's what I'm supposed to
Mm.
do. And if I want it that bad, that's what I do. Right. And I remember like my now husband at the time, when he was my boyfriend, he got me like a massage one time. And I just looked at him and I'm like, there's no way I have time for a massage. Like, what is self care? Like, it just didn't even occur to me. And so I think for so many people, and then for me, it was like when we were able to, when I hit that goal, I still, yeah, because I was so used to achieving and my nervous system was so programmed a specific way, I couldn't actually relax and receive and enjoy it and trust that the money would keep coming in and trust that it was okay if I wasn't always doing um,
Mm.
that my business would, thrive and that I would be okay. And so I think for so many people, we're not able, right, to find that fulfillment because our nervous systems just aren't able to receive it. We're conditioned in this way that we set a goal and we do whatever it takes to achieve it. And then we're so focused on the goal that we forget to enjoy the journey. We want that goal so bad. And we think I'll be happy when, or I'll feel safe when, or everything will be okay when. And we put this whole idea into the future that somehow it's going to be different then. But we forget that we're still us when we're at the imagined destination. And so
Mm.
what I would really say to anyone is it's like, just know this isn't your fault. Like so many of us go through this. We're so conditioned to believe that success has to be gotten a certain way or that we operate a certain way. And so it's really like looking into starting to do nervous system regulation and really starting to rewire your mind and your nervous system to be able to receive, to actually feel good, to trust that it is safe, to trust that it's okay to go enjoy yourself, that it's okay to let it in. I've seen so many people where it's like you have it all, but you're waiting for the shoe to drop, or you can't actually trust that it's going to last, or that you feel bad if you actually let yourself enjoy it and you take the time off or whatever it might be. And so I really think, it starts from really looking within and really just starting to, yeah, just recognize like this is just where your system's at. This is what feels safe for you. And then you get to go on this really amazing journey to start to shift that and start to really allow more pleasure within your life and enjoy the journey. And I think another really big piece there is like detaching from goals. Goals are amazing if they can propel us forward to where we want to be in life. But if we put too much pressure on those goals, it can also cause a lot of suffering for us. And it could really cause us to forget the now, basically, and just keep working towards this imagined future, but really lose out on the journey and on what we have. And we really only have the present. So consistently coming back to that is so important.
Yeah, and you mentioned regulating the nervous system a few times, and I just want to ask, what is that like that you feel is like a secret key to getting to that place? Like, can you explain to the listeners how regulating your nervous system, like why is that even necessary?
It is one of the most important things that you can do. I feel in this lifetime because so many of us are walking around dysregulated and we don't even know it. And what that can look like, there's so many ways that it can look. But in this specific instance, it can. So for me, for example, it was like I was always, my nervous system was used to this certain conflict. So it was always searching for this conflict. And it was always creating all these stories of, oh, but this person did this, or oh, but what if this happens? And all these different ideas of what could happen because that's what felt safe. That's how my nervous system learned to operate. And so when it came to like really, so then in nervous system regulation, I'm able to actually see like, okay, my nervous system's dysregulated. This is why it's dysregulated. This is how it's acting. And then I can start to regulate it to really be able to know like, no, I'm safe. Like it's okay. I don't need to, like, it's actually safe to not look into all these different situations of what could happen. I'll be okay. And I mean, this can show up in so many ways. Like this can show up in money if you want to manifest more money and create more income in your life, but your nervous system can't hold it because it doesn't feel safe to it. Then that's a huge piece of the work that we have to do. And I think nervous system regulation, when I started my business in 2017. Nobody was talking about that at the time. Like I didn't even know what a nervous system was. Like, I had no idea that that was something that, yeah, that's why that I was the one creating this, or whatnot. I thought it was so many of these external factors. And, like now there's so many people talking about it, which is so amazing. And I think for anybody listening, like you can just start to notice how your body is operating in different times. Maybe if you overreact to something or what you consider to be an overreaction, or if you feel like you really wanted to say something and you couldn't, or things like that. These are all signals that your nervous system is dysregulated. And from there, there's so many different ways that you can start to regulate it, but that will really allow you to expand your capacity to receive and to be able to, well, one, achieve your goals, but also, and hold them, but also do it in a way that feels really good for you.
I love it. I'm loving the direction that this is going. And you mentioned expanding your capacity to hold money. And I think that's something that a lot of people are wanting and looking for. And a lot of people really, really struggle in that area and are unable to hold that money. And so, can you get a little bit into what are the steps that people should be taking to expand their capacity to hold in concepts of like financial success?
I think there's so many different ways that you can go here. I think one thing in particular is like just starting to recognize where your blocks are. So, for example, I was working with a client once and she really wanted to start making, more money. She wanted to make like 10, 20K months, right? And she just wasn't doing it. And a lot of the times, again, we think it's these other reasons. We think, oh, I'm not doing the strategy enough, which it can be, but oftentimes it's deeper, right? Or oh, it's all these external factors. The business doesn't work or this thing or that, whatever it is. But ultimately, what we did was we really started to look at, okay, well, one technique I like to take people through is like looking at, well, actually, how does this really serve you? That you're not making that currently? Like, what do you believe that will happen when you start making that amount? And what ended up happening for her was she was so scared that her family, which she had no idea of this until we did this process, but she had no idea like that her family, she thought she wouldn't be able to feel connected to them anymore because she'd be making like way more than they ever made. And she had a really close relationship with her family. And so she was worried that they wouldn't have anything in common anymore. So because of this fear, it was actually something totally unrelated to money, she thought, right? Was actually holding her back from making the amount that she wanted to make. And so once she was able to see that, that was able to we were able to really do the work around what exactly was holding her back to help her make more income. And so I would say there is first off, really think about like, when I hit that milestone that I want, I'm afraid that like, what are you afraid is going to happen? That's kind of a very simplified version of the process, but what are you afraid is going to happen? And then do the work around that. And also when it comes to to the specific nervous system regulation piece of this, it's like notice we all have this specific baseline when it comes to money, when it comes to how good we feel, when it comes to relationships, all areas of our lives. And so if with money, for example, if you make a lot of money in one area, maybe you'll start to lose it in another. Or if you end up like getting a check from someone, you'll end up somehow spending it or whatnot to get to whatever that baseline is. So you always somehow magically end up there. And so it's really starting to recognize where your baseline is and then doing the work, the nervous system work, to start to be able to hold more, to start to be able to increase your capacity. And one quick tip that I like to do with this is just notice, like, when you think about the amount of income that you want to make, just like even say the number and notice how it feels in your body. Like, does it feel really like icky or scary, or notice whatever emotions come up. And from there, you'll know how your nervous system feels
Mm.
about that amount. And so starting to get your body, your nervous system really familiar with that amount, and really like holding it in your body and getting used to it, can be a really great way to help you acclimate to that number. And then when you start to feel more comfortable with it, naturally things start to shift in your life as well. And so I think a really big
Mm.
piece is looking at the beliefs around the amount that you want to make, or even the beliefs around what feels really safe for where you're at right now. And then really starting to work with the body and see how those income amounts feel.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful that you're bringing in the wisdom of the body too, because it's like the body, your body will literally tell you like what's up, like what's going on in your subconscious mind. And this is like the power of programming and wiring your subconscious mind to be in alignment with your goals and listening to what your body is telling you along the way are such huge secrets to overcome your hidden blocks. And you mentioned a lot about nervous system regulation, and I know many people in our audience may be very familiar with this, and some people might be like, okay, nervous system regulation, like what? I'm still like not quite catching on. Can you explain maybe just like one or two methods that people can do to make their body feel safe, not only becoming aware of, okay, I'm noticing I'm feeling this discomfort around money and these bigger numbers, but like, what can I do to make my body comfortable with that?
Totally. So when it comes to like the specific numbers, I think it really is just like holding yourself with that number, that feeling, and allowing the sensations, the emotions to move through you. But a really big piece with this, and then just any nervous system regulation that you can do literally anywhere you are, anytime, is your breath. I think the breath is one of the most powerful tools for nervous system regulation. And, like if I notice myself just getting flustered about something, or my heart's beating really fast, or whatever it might be, I'll just come back to my breath, and I'll just start to take some really slow inhales and then slow exhales, breathing deep into my belly. And there's different breath patterns that I do, but I think I think the breath is such an underutilized tool for nervous system regulation. And so really just coming back to, yeah, your breath at any point throughout the day. If you feel activated in any way, or even deactivated, depending on which way your nervous system is going. But the breath is such an amazing tool. And so I think that is a really, really great one. And then another tool that I really love for nervous system regulation is just getting in my body. And so this can look like, I mean, so many ways, right? But playing your favorite song, whatever that is, and just allowing it to play, and fully like closing your eyes, letting yourself just dance and go there, and letting everything move as it wants to. And even getting, like, one of my favorite ways to do this is just getting on all fours and closing my eyes and allowing my body to move me. And
Mm.
from there, it can really help me. I tend to get in my head often, and have a lot of thoughts. So can really help me just drop out of those thoughts and into my body, and just start to reactivate the primal nervous system and the primal like animal self, which we all are, and allow the body to start to lead, which, as you do that more and more, your body and your mind start to understand, okay, the body can lead, and trust that, which can
Mm.
really, really help you in so many areas of your life.
That's powerful. And the question also comes to mind when people are on this journey of tapping more into their body and regulating their nervous system and letting their body feel that true sense of comfort and fulfillment in the now. How would someone know that they have like successfully regulated their nervous system to what they're wanting?
I think it's not necessarily a one and done thing. Like, for me, it's been really a year long process. And I think, or not year long, years long process. And I think you're going to get dysregulated at times, right? You're just increasing your window of tolerance of where you're kind of able to maintain that regulation. But I think a great way to know is ultimately kind of what we were talking about at the beginning is how are you feeling? If you're feeling really good, then you're most likely going to be pretty regulated. I would say also if you notice that maybe things that used to trigger you a lot or cause you to scream or get activated in some way aren't doing that as much, or you have more of a pause before they do, where you can think about how you want to react, then that's a good sign that you're getting more regulated as well. And so I think those are some, yeah, good ways to track and to know. And I think too, if your dysregulation goes the other way, where you feel more numb and in freeze, if you start to feel more alive and you start to feel more sensations in your body, and you start to be able to kind of feel yourself again, then you know that you're starting to become more regulated as well.
Mm, that's beautiful. And with this being said too, I know that people may feel alone oftentimes in their journey. And also I want to reiterate before we move on to the next question of just it's not with you saying like it's not a one and done thing. Like it's not like oh, I'm dysregulated, oh, I'm regulated. It's
Hmm.
like a spectrum almost of like just moving forward, and there's no really like quote unquote like success point. You're just like
Hmm.
continuing to move forward of feeling more and more regulated.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I wanted to just emphasize that for our listeners. But I know a lot of people can feel alone on their journey of thinking like, oh, I'm going through so much emotionally or just like emotional distress. And so I wanted to ask, like, as you work with your clients to help them rewire their beliefs and create the life that they want, what are like the most common challenges and patterns that you often see them come across?
Yeah, so I think just to reiterate too what you said, it's like it's literally a moment to moment thing. It's like, oh, I'm dysregulated, regulated in this moment. I'm regulated in this moment. It keeps changing, and that's being human. Like it's normal that you're gonna go into dysregulation, especially in certain situations, and then you're gonna feel more regulated in others. So I love that you emphasize that because there really is no like getting there in it. It's just kind of that day to day navigating of life. So I think that was a really important point to highlight. But yeah, I think one of the biggest things for my clients, like navigating beliefs and just in general is not knowing. I think a lot of times we don't know what's holding us back, or we don't know that we're feeling a certain way or why things are the way they are. And so really getting that awareness is really key. And I think a lot of times too, I kind of mentioned this earlier, but a lot of times we think it's, something somebody else did or some external circumstance or something else that's holding us back besides ourselves. And ultimately, the answer is that it always comes back to us, right? We're very powerful creators of our reality. And so when we can really start to accept that and to really realize that about ourselves, and we can start to see how we're creating different situations, or okay, what situation is occurring in my life right now, this is definitely a reflection of my beliefs and of how I'm showing up. Then we can really start to do the work to then see, okay, now how do we want to shift this as well. But I think that's definitely, yeah, probably the biggest block that I get from clients that I'm working with is they're just unaware of their
Hmm.
part in it, and also of what it is that's holding them back. Because so many of what's holding us back is subconscious, and it is in our bodies, and it's things that we don't know, we might not remember, we may not have any idea how we feel. Um, but when we can uncover them, it's amazing the change that we can create.
Yeah, and it's I'm loving that you're saying this too because so much about personal development and growing yourself and making the improvements that you want to is about expanding your awareness and becoming more aware of the patterns that you've been in and the cycles that you've been in and the thought patterns that you've been in.
One thing I wanted to touch on too about how you said so many people feel so alone on this journey is like one reason why I feel it's so important to talk about, and to talk about for me my experience and to have conversations like this, because I know for me when I was I mean, I'm still traveling for the last like 6 years. Me and my husband have been running our business traveling, which has been amazing. But in the beginning, when I was really struggling with all this, I didn't know. Like, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one who had these thoughts. I thought I was the only one who couldn't appreciate the life she created. Like I just, I didn't recognize that this is normal, that so many people have these, as a society, that so many people are struggling with this and struggling, especially when Instagram and social media, we have all these things to compare. So many people are struggling just to actually accept where they're at, and really own that and be able to see what other people are doing and still be okay or be happy, with enjoying the journey or all the things we were talking about before. And I think, you know, having like, there is such a piece to, we just don't realize that this is such a normal thing of being human, like all of the stuff that we're talking about now. And so when it comes to being alone in that, like, just know, whoever's listening to this, like, know that anybody that you see online, probably anyone that you meet, like, has gone through something like this or something like you're going through in some form or fashion. It's so natural to the human experience. And I think that that's just a really important point to highlight.
Yeah, and that perfectly leads me into the next question because I'm also wondering, I know a lot of people with feeling alone, they also feel like you just said, like so many people are hard on themselves and they're like, no matter where they're at on their journey, even if they've accomplished so much already, they dismiss everything and they're like, I'm still not like, even though I've hit these points, I have now these other points, and they're constantly feeling that sense of dissatisfaction. And so that being said, how do you navigate the balance between like setting those ambitious goals while still finding that sense of happiness and feeling of accomplishment along the journey in your day to day?
This definitely has been something I've struggled with as well along my journey. And I think a really key thing for me has been two things. Has been one, really looking at, as I think about where I want to go, it's also thinking about where I've been and really showing my mind and piecing together the fact of like, the lifestyle that you're living now, like you used to dream about, like you really wanted. And just reminding myself of that growth that I've had and how this was once a goal. And so I think for anybody, wherever you're at in your life, even if you're not living the lifestyle that you're hoping to yet, is just, I'm sure if you look back a few years ago, right, there were so many things in your life that you have now that you were hoping to have, whether it's certain qualities in yourself, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a certain job or career or place you're living or whatever it is. Really allow yourself to go back on your own life and really stack that evidence for yourself of just how far that you've come. Because when we can do that, that even accelerates us towards our goals as well, to really build that confidence. But I think that's a really big piece. And also really recognizing where you're at each day. So, giving yourself that credit, like allowing you to see yourself. It's like, yes, we have so like goals, we have areas we want to get to, but let's look at where I'm at right now today. Like, what are some really amazing things that I did today? Who did I impact today? What's a really cool conversation I had? How did I get to show up for my business or for my life in a way today that felt really rewarding and fulfilling? And or like if you led a really cool call or something, depending on what you do, like, wow, I did that. And really giving yourself that credit each day to just really show your mind, like, I'm doing this. Like, I've come so far. Like, this is so awesome. And through that recognition each day, it really helps you really acknowledge where you're at, and also feel really good about it. So your goals are coming, but you're also giving yourself credit for where you've gotten to.
Those are amazing questions and tips that you've just dropped. I hope whoever's listening, you took notes on this because that's something that you're going to want to go back to. And it really is that the habit of looking at how far you've come, because our minds as humans, right, we're very primed to always want more, always want more. And so having that habit of always looking back, like we need to incorporate that in order to feel that sense of accomplishment within ourselves along the journey. And I want to get a bit into daily routines too, because in today's fast-paced society, many people struggle with finding balance and prioritizing self-care. And coming from someone who's not only created that external, but also more importantly, that internal state of freedom and success, how do you integrate practices of self-care and mindfulness into your daily routine? And how do you balance that with your work life and showing up for your business at the same time?
So one of the most impactful lessons a coach shared with me a few years ago that I was working with probably back in like 2018 is, I was like, what if I can't do a morning routine? Like if I don't have all the time to do it, or it just feels like I want to get into work for the day or whatever it was. And she said it's not about that. It's about how you show up all throughout your day, and that you're integrating these practices like all throughout your day. That's what matters. Like it's not just when you give yourself this set time. It's like, well, how are you actually showing up in real life? And so that was really impactful for me to first off, because I know people listening might feel like I have to do this like long routine. And if I don't do that, then I'm not showing up for myself or having self-care. And it's really more about, I mean, yes, you can do that, and that's amazing. And I think it's also really about how you show up for yourself all throughout your day, and throughout your life. And so for me, the way that I'll really integrate it into my own life is just, I mean, I do have a bit of a morning routine that I do, and a bit of an evening routine, but throughout the day, it's more just like noticing how I'm feeling, like becoming aware. So if there's a certain trigger that I'm activated in, or like a story, it's like, okay, can I, like, I've gotten to the point where I can actually pause and recognize, okay, you're in a story right now, and be able to pull myself out of it, which is, it's definitely like a Jedi skill. I feel like, to be able to really catch yourself when you're in that part. And so really, yeah, being able to pull myself back from that, take a few breaths, place my hand on my heart, like, and decide from there, like separate myself from the story, from the thought. And then from there, how I want to move forward, is a big one. I think also, so it's like moment to moment things. I think, recognizing like when I'm sitting here working, it's just like, okay, my body really wants to move. So starting to allow it to move, maybe saying, okay, let me just pause, put on a song, and let my body move, and really feel that if it feels good. Or I like to play with sound too. So if I'm feeling like frustrated, let's say, or I'm feeling anyway, really, and I just want to let out a sound, I'll let out a scream or some primal like roar, or like something that just feels good for me in the moment. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is kind of like I was saying before, it has to take a really long time, but it doesn't. It can literally be like a 30-second thing, or even less sometimes, just in your day. Like I'll focus on my breath at times if I notice my body is getting activated, and just really start to slow it down. Or if I notice I'm really caught in something, I'll again focus on my breath to get out of it. I'll like place my hand on my heart to just really come back to myself, and to let myself know that I'm there for myself, as well, is a really big one too. And just different practices like that, I feel like throughout my day have been so instrumental to just recognizing like yeah, like I'm here for me. And that goes such a long way. And even like this morning, I went to this yoga class, and I was kind of feeling like all these things before the class were like stressing me out or going wrong or whatever it was. And I just had this moment of like, wait, I get to decide like how I'm responding to this. I get to decide how I want my day to go. And I just shifted my perspective just like in that moment, to really be like, it's fine. Like I'm literally in a yoga class, things are great. Like, I'm going to shift the energy. And then, after that, right, everything was great. And so it's really recognizing like we have the power to, again, we are the creator of our reality. Like we can really shift so much more than we know. And just to touch on like the busy lives piece, like, yeah, we're all running around, we're doing so many things. I think with that too, a big thing for me is I really will notice like my body, for example, if I'm scrolling and I'm getting caught on social media, or I'm on my phone too much, my body will actually, I'll feel it. And so I'll take that sign of like, okay, let me put my phone down. Like I don't need to be on it for now. Or if I don't want to be in front of a screen, or there's so many different things, obviously it can go like on and on about this, but I think just if you are leading a busy life, know that that doesn't mean that you don't have to have self-care. It's not always going to a massage or doing a whole hour-long meditation or whatever. Whatever else feels good for you. It can literally be just like I share these moment-to-moment things that you're doing for yourself to really help you how you're showing up and how you're feeling throughout the day. That go a long way.
So you're saying it's really not about having that long, extensive morning routine, but rather how you're showing up in the different segments of your day, tuning into your body, noticing, when it's telling you you're going too hard, or maybe even step up a notch, and also regulating yourself as things come up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This all just resonates so hard. And I hope
Mhm.
everyone listening is loving this conversation as much as I am. I know that you had mentioned to me when we were talking earlier before we hopped on that you went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat.
Mhm.
And out of my own curiosity, because anyone who knows me knows that I'm absolutely fascinated with his teachings, how do you feel attending his retreat impacted your personal growth and transformation?
The retreat was a really, really amazing experience. I mean, you're literally meditating for like I feel like 30 hours, like for a week and like total within that week. And it was just yeah, I feel like I can barely even put it to words because it was so powerful. Like after my whole body was able to just be so relaxed and so calm, like way more because you're not dealing with all the daily things in life and then you're consistently meditating. So it really opened me up to really kind of see a state that was possible for myself. I think also you do these walking meditations, which are you're playing these meditations in headphones while you're walking on. For us, it was a beach, and you just kind of walk with all these people and you walk in different postures and different ways. And it was so cool. Like I was able to actually feel, going back to the feeling as life feeling as good as it looks, I was actually able to really feel when I went to this event, like just like a joy that I hadn't felt before. And I was really able to access that. And so that was really powerful too. I think overall in my life, how it affected it is just, I mean, really seeing, oh my gosh, yeah, now I'm having flashbacks from the events. Like it's literally like magic occurs at these events and it's so wild. Like, I mean, there's like you do these healing kind of circles, coherent, I'm forgetting what they're called now, but
Yeah, the coherent.
yes, coherence healing. Yeah. And you put your like hands out and you literally heal these people who have like all these sicknesses and just different ailments and whatnot. And it is so powerful for like the energy to move through you and then to hear the people's results after you've been a part of this for them. And so I'm getting like the chills just thinking about it. But I think for me, one of the most powerful takeaways from that event is just really showing me like how powerful we are and how much we can really shift things for ourselves and how much we can when we're focusing on when we're reshaping our personalities each day and we're actually choosing to stop operating from the past and operate from where we want to go and show up that way, like what we yeah, just the power that we have to really create for us, like whatever we desire in this life, and nothing is finite. Like if we really choose to believe certain things, we can truly make them our reality. And so it was just really powerful for me to see. And I think it really helped me shift my state as well overall. I was doing the meditations a lot after the retreat as well.
That's amazing. Yeah. I love just connecting with people who have or in the community as well. It's such a beautiful experience. And it's interesting to note that a lot of people who go to these retreats and really like invest in themselves really create that internal sense of what they're searching for, that internal happiness and fulfillment. And before we close out, I love to ask anyone who comes on the show this question, and that is if you were to share one sentence on how you believe we can make the world a better place, what would it be?
Mm. I think we can make the world a better place by really starting to recognize our part in how we're showing up, and we can and starting to recognize who we actually are versus who we think that we're versus who we think we are. And what I mean by that is so many people are operating in all these different triggers and taking out so much on different people that has nothing is just because of a past trauma or because of past conditioning that activated this part in them. And if we can really start to, if so many of us started to do this work and just really acknowledge like who we actually are at our core, right, which is love and in our essence, and start to yeah, become aware of when we're acting from these parts versus when we're acting from our true self. I think just that alone can change so much within this world and how people are treating each other. And it can really cause us, it will help us all like love ourselves so much more as well, which in turn will really, yeah, will really shift how we're acting towards others too, which ultimately in these like dyads of relationships and on the micro scale that then go to the macro scale, I think if we all really did this, I mean, I think the world would drastically change.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you on, Ashley. Please share where our listeners can find you and get to know you, get to know more about the magic that you have to offer the world.
So the best place to find me would be over on Instagram, and my handle is Oh the Places Ash Goes.
Perfect. That's it. You can find her there. They will also be left that will also be left in the episode's notes as well below. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you again for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please give it a 5-star review, sharing what you love most about this podcast, and I will see you in the next episode of Shattering Reality.